Hi everyone, this is Paul from Wheel of Games, and I'm here with the final prediction video for Season 1 of Amazon and Sony's Wheel of Time. I'm well educated in all of the video teasers that they've put out this time. I decided to wait until all of them were released before I went ahead and made my predictions video because I did not want to end up with egg on my face again. But to begin, let's start with the cold open that I hope to see, and we'll see where we go from there. Okay? So what I think that we're going to get for a cold open is actually the Waygate shutting, and we're going to see Matt's perspective. I think that we're going to get, because the revelation in one of the teasers is that Matt is in the final episode, which is a far cry from what I was expecting. And I'm actually kind of glad to see that Barney Harris as Matt is being portrayed in this episode. Maybe it'll give us a better explanation for what happened with his character moving forward to the new actor. But I think that we're going to begin the episode with the end of episode 6. And I think that we're going to see what happens with Matt. Now, based on the teaser, it appears that Matt is dark again, which is not a far cry from the books. It does happen. He is removed from his link from the dagger in the books, but he still needs the dagger to survive until he gets fully healed at Tar Valon, which is part of the reason why some people were up in arms that Moiraine just healed him by himself. But I think that we're going to get a bit of a cold open with that. I think that Matt is going to see Padan Fain and be suspicious. I think that that's going to be the cold open. So hopefully the cold open is a recap type of thing for episode 6 is for the end of episode 6's events. Sorry, my light is doing some weird stuff. But aside from that, past everything there, I think that the episode's context is going to be majority of the episode is going to be dedicated to Rand and Moiraine. I think that it's going to be interspliced in cuts, but overall runtime, I think Rand and Moiraine, between the two of them, we're going to get the most screen time out of those two characters. We're going to see Rand and Moiraine going towards the Blight. I think that they're going to be having discussions. Moiraine is going to explain, this is how strong the Dark One's influence is and all that stuff, which is going to result in Rand wanting to push harder to keep going. You can see in one of the teasers he's drawing his bow, which means that we might hear the screams of something that's called a worm in the first book, which we never actually see those fully transformed and everything fully grown in the actual books, but it is mentioned in River of Souls. I believe that that's the situation, is that Demon Dread had to slay a fully grown worm. But aside from that, I think that we're going to get interspliced cuts until they get to the eye. I don't think that we're going to get the Green Man. This does not mean that I don't want the Green Man. I would really love to see Semesta in the episode. I think that it would be nice for him to be the overarching narrative, but when they finally get to the eye, and maybe he'll be able to clarify some of the stuff regarding the Eye of the World to the main two characters that are there. But at the same time, I think that they're giving a lot of Semesta's dialogue to Loial. So they may have just... I realize that it's odd to say that you've combined the Green Man and the Ogier, but they may have just done that. Because in the full context of the story, the Green Man is in, I think, 2 books. 2? And that is not a super significant character. I realize that the Nym exists in the books, but as much as I want Semesta to be in the book, I think that Loial is a good analog for Semesta, to be a regular presence. So, and I keep saying Semesta, it's the Green Man, but he has a name and it's mentioned, and I'm a nut. So aside from that, I believe that Lan we're going to cut into where Lan is trying to gather the group to go into the Blight to try to find Rand and Moiraine, and he's going to be interrupted by Agomar. I believe that Agomar is going to advocate, listen, we got the last battle coming right now because we got word from our scouts that there's and you hear it in the teaser, 5,000 to 10,000 Trollocs charging towards Tarwin's Gap. again, in the books, they really play this up that it could potentially be the last battle. All the Faldaran soldiers are trying to convince Daishan, which is Lan, to ride with them into Tarwin's Gap, as it's prophesied for his people and all that stuff. And I think that in this situation, Lan is going to be torn, but he's going to, because his bond is masked to Moraine, he's going to concede to fight with the Faldarans at Tarwin's Gap. And you also have another bit of a teaser where they're mentioning that they're calling for every female channeler, for every woman that can channel, to go to the Gap to assist them. And I think that what happens in the books is not going to happen. So Rand is not going to inherently teleport to Tarwin's Gap and beat back the army that the army is facing. I don't think that they're going to include that in this episode. I think that they're going to substitute that to be Egwene and Nynaeve and Lady Alicia, I forget her name, but Agomar's sister, that they're all going to be at the Gap and they're going to be channeling with all their power. And the thing is that the sister is familiar with all the Tower teachings, so she may be the reason that Nynaeve recognizes her potential, but she doesn't recognize her capability because she's not refined and she doesn't know how to do it. So this would be a good stand-in to be a person who went to the Tower, trained, wasn't strong enough, and it could be a good catalyst to push Nynaeve and Egwene into the Tower and say, with your gifts, you need to be there. You need to learn this. As much as you may hate them, you need to learn from the Aes Sedai. And so that could be a thing, because Nynaeve is always driven to heal and to help and to protect. That's always her job in the story. And so because of that, she could feel very compelled to heal and protect and defend these soldiers with her supernatural power that she has no full control over. So maybe she'll teach them how to link. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I believe that that's where our forces are going to end up. We're going to have Perrin. That's the one person that I don't know. So I'm hoping, because again, we're all really looking forward to what they're doing with Fane. I'm super excited because they've been building it up all season. And I very much believe that we're going to get flashbacks to everything that Fane has done throughout the season, kind of like a alternate perspective. And a big thing that a lot of people have been advocating throughout the community is that this is the Eye of the World told as if Moraine was the first person character as opposed to Rand. So maybe they're going to start doing this shift of perspective, and you're going to be able to see the world through Fane's perspective and what he's been doing throughout the entire season. And past that, we're also going to probably have that become the primary conflict, where Fane may have brought Mat with him, and that's why Mat has a part to play. And we don't know which character is speaking this line. I know we get some lines from Loyal, so that's automatically +1 star. We already know this. That's my typical grading scale. But when it comes to the overall story, I don't know what Perrin's part to play in all this is. And that was my phone going off. I apologize. But I don't see what Perrin's point in Faldara is to play. The only thing that Perrin could potentially be used for in this sense is that Perrin is sorry, I need to silence this in case it goes off again. But it's that if Perrin is to be the one that's tracking Moraine and Rand, and he's using his wolf senses to be able to do this. I don't know if we're going to see Minigan. We may see Minigan, but I believe that might be what they do, is that they'll have Perrin be either the one in conflict with Fane directly, where Fane is, he's the one that pointed out Fane was there last episode. He's the one that identified him when they were walking through the town. So maybe Perrin's fight becomes with Fane directly, and that becomes and Fane might bring up Layla and what Perrin did to Layla and how it was what he always wanted and blah blah blah, because we heard all that stuff with Machin Shin. And so potentially that's where Perrin is going to slot in with all this. So we'll have Lan charging against all the Trollocs and the Fade, and fades. We're gonna have Nynaeve and Egwene helping the soldiers with the lady with Agomar's sister. We're gonna have Perrin trying to hunt down Fane and Mat, and we're gonna have Rand and Moiraine confronting the Ember-Eyed Man, which we know is Ashamael if we're book readers, at the Eye of the World. I think that it is a plant. I think it's a trap. I think that Moiraine is going to be incapacitated very quickly once the conflict happens. I don't believe Moiraine is going to die, because again, Rosamund Pike is a very, very, very well-known actress and brings a lot of eyes to the product. So if she dies in season 1, you kind of don't have a hook for season 2. For anybody that's just a casual wanting to watch a new show about fantasy, Rosamund Pike is doing the media circuits. Rosamund Pike is doing everything. She's also a producer on the show. I don't see Moiraine dying in this episode at all. We know from the books in book 5, she is gone and dies for another, I think it's 8 books before we see her again. So it's really early for them to do anything remotely close to removing Moiraine from the narrative. So I believe Moiraine is going to be incapacitated the same way she was at the end of Eye of the World, when she tried to confront Agenor and she ended up getting thrown and knocked out. So I believe that that's going to happen. And it's going to be a long... we're going to get all that stuff. This is what I think that it's going to end up being, is that it's going to be Rand and Ashamael's entire conflicts that they were having throughout the Eye of the World, where Rand was always saying, I deny you, I deny you, I deny you, because he believes that if he denies the Dark One, then, he's immune to the Dark One's influence. And I believe that Rand is going to think that it's the Dark One initially, but I think that we're going to have that same moment where Rand may defeat him, and Moiraine is going to state that it's not that simple. But we're also playing up this character of Moiraine where there's more, her not being as absolute as she was in the first book. Because if you pay attention to Moraine's character in the first book, she's very matter-of-fact and very absolute. Like, everything that she believes is based on how the wheel weaves it. And Moiraine has a very concrete, in the books at least, identity with this is how the pattern wills it, this is the only way that this can work out, and and she processes that things can't be that simple. So I don't believe that it's going to be Rand saying it couldn't be that simple. I think it's still going to be Moiraine saying that it can't be that simple. But the problem is that I don't know who's going to announce this between the two of them, whether it's Rand coming to some realization or it's Moiraine. Now, I do also advocate one other thing. So if they do not start a cold open with the end of episode 6 and seeing what happened to Mat, we'll get it in a flashback sequence. My personal hope is that we get a cold open of the prologue to Eye of the World. I personally think that would be fantastic, because it would establish Ashamael. It would establish him before we got to him at the Eye. And personally, that would be my dream, would be all of this in the old tongue. And it would be translated with subtitles at the bottom. And we get to hear inflection and dialect and all that stuff. All these good, meaty, juicy, fan things that we've always wanted, right? So I want that. I want there to be a cold open of Dragonmount from prologue, book 1, just everything in its entirety. I want to see Winter Dragon on steroids. I want to see Winter Dragon with a $10 million budget. That's what I want. And honestly, I would high five for a Billy Zane cameo. Honestly, he doesn't have to play Ashamael, but he could just be in the shot somewhere as one of the servants. I think that'd be awesome. But aside from all that, because this is the last predictions video before the end of the season, I'm going to go ahead and put out Pipe Dreams. So the first bit is we start on a cold open with prologue at Dragonmount. The second bit is that we get a awareness of everything going on, but my honest pipe dream, what I think would be insane, it wouldn't make any sense, because that's another thing, is that this would just throw every book purist off a cliff, right? But if the battle at Tarwin's Gap seems to be falling behind. Like seems like it's breaking down. I want to see a Rockin come down and a Damani just blast the whole line, and then potentially Nynaeve or Egwene gets collared. I realize it seems crazy, but if we end the season with a dramatic payoff like that, where we gotta tune in next season now, I think it's insane, personally. But I think that it introduces the Shan-Chan in a way more dramatic way. I realize that Falma and everything, the battle with the Horn of Valir, we haven't even heard a lick of the Horn of Valir in this entire season. By this time in the books, we had heard about the Horn of Valir at least twice or some nonsense. But my point is that having the presence of the Dark One like looming and coming down, right? Like just barrowing down onto Fal Dara, and then just this alien force, because they've already mentioned that ships are disappearing off of the west coast. But again, the issue is that Fal Dara is so far inland, and somebody would have seen them. That means that the Shan-Chan would have already had to have some form of traveling. But we've already established in the story, or at least in the television show, that traveling is not impossible via Ter'angreal. So we know that it's possible based on, again, this is one of those things where you got to dig into the special features, but that's what Moraine and Siuan did to meet up in the shack. But the point is that if we had a Shan-Chan reveal at the end, again, a Rockin just flying in, and just a giant rift in the earth opening up and fire coming down, it'd be insane. I think it'd be like action-packed as all crazy, and it'd be fantastic. But I think that it would drive every book purist nuts. Like, it would be insanity. It would be just not anything possible. But that's pipe dreams. Because, again, short of, like, Liandrin traveling the ways, we aren't going to get anything close to what happened in the books. Because, again, everything's out of order now. So the world's their oyster. They can do whatever they need to do, but still tell the same story. And I think that Rand is going to succeed, but I think that it's going to be a bittersweet victory if there is any succession. I think that there's going to be potentially, and this is like the last bit, and then I'll be done, because I could sit here and ramble for 45 minutes about my predictions for episode 8. But I think that there's going to be a point where Ishamael or Ba'alzamon is trying to influence Rand to turn him. And we're going to get a similar vision, kind of like the visions we saw with Min, of Lews Therin. Because we know he's been cast, and he's going to talk Rand through the process to not follow the dark path. I think that that's going to be kind of how they end that. With Rand coming to the revelation that he is the dragon, and what the purpose of his existence is, and I think that nothing's going to be the same at the end. And I would not put it past this being the end of Ishamael's character. I don't like that, because Elan Morin Tedranai is one of my favorite characters in the entire books. But I can see from a narrative perspective, especially if they're only given limited time, that having the same villain for the first 3 books or first 3 seasons, it doesn't compute. And the final and only other, prediction that I'll put out there is we will see another Forsaken in some capacity. And I wouldn't put it past it being Lanfear. I just wouldn't, right? Like, it just seems like a good setup. But if it is that Shan-Chan holy crap ending, because again, we know from an interview with Marcus Rutherford that they were working in the smithy to make stuff for Shan-Chan, which was the first confirmation that they exist, in the show. Which, I mean, they have to, but still, it's one of those things. It would just be crazy if that was like the actual ending to the show, was just a smash to black at the end, and like they blatantly do it. That'd be hilarious, but we'll see what happens. I mean, it's seeing Lanfear, but if it is that Shan-Chan reveal, it may be Cimarog. but I doubt it because Cimarrog's like a super late game villain, at least in the books. But I would definitely say that we might see another Forsaken at the end. But either way, that's been my predictions, and can't wait to see you guys tomorrow night. Bye bye.